Hello, and thank you for joining us for our first program impact video. These videos are shorter micro-learning sessions designed to provide a deeper dive into programs and funding resources given COVID-19. Today, our topic is Economic Adjustment Assistance EAA program at US EDA. My name is Henan Li, and I'm the Asian Trade and Investment Representative of California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, GO-Biz. I'm a part of the International Affairs and Trade team of GO-Biz, and I'm passionate to connect great resources to business for future success. To begin, we ask that if you have any questions, please use the link below this video. Upon submission of a question, you will then be connected with GO-Biz staff who will share your questions with program contact. All questions and answers will be aggregated into a document to be posted with this video on our website at business.ca.gov. We also would love to hear your feedback. We have included a survey link, which is intended for you to provide feedback on any digital content provided by our office. Lastly, we asked you to share this video and stay connected with us. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel for all our video content. You can also follow our Twitter at CalGoBiz and subscribe to our newsletter. Links to both Twitter and subscription list are also provided below. Today, we are very excited to have Melinda Matson, EDA representative for Coastal and Northern California, to join us to talk about this new EAA funding opportunity. Now we'll be turning over to Melinda to share a little bit about her background and the introduction of this program.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Melinda Matson, and I work for, can we go back just a second? Yeah, thank you. And I work for the U.S. Economic Development Administration. EDA is a fairly small federal agency within the U.S. Department of Commerce. California is covered by the Seattle Regional Office, and that's where all the grant processing and decisions are made. And we have two economic development representatives in the Golden State. You can see here on the slide our names. My colleague Wilfred Marshall covers Southern California and the Central Valley, and I cover Northern California and the coast from Monterey north. And we are here to help you develop projects and applications. Next, please. So what we do. So EDA is the only federal agency whose sole mission within the federal government is economic development. And we have used a bottom-up, locally driven approach for more than 50 years. Many of you, I hope, are already familiar with us, and those that aren't, I hope this gives you an opportunity to get to know us. So Congress included $1.5 billion for EDA in the CARES Act. And $1.475 billion of that will be granted out through the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program. So our existing opportunity, PWIA 2020, that's in grants.gov, has been amended to include provisions for this additional appropriation. And you can find the NOFO, that's the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and our application packages on grants.gov. We'll talk about more of that in a second. So we are currently accepting applications, and we are looking for projects that address the impacts COVID-19 has had on local and regional economies, and that will help those economies recover and become more economically resilient. Next slide, please. Okay, so down to the nitty-gritty. So our grants are awarded through a competitive process, and eligible applicants include state and local governments. So that's counties, incorporated cities, special district, JPAs, so forth. Nonprofits are also eligible, but must be working in cooperation with a local form of government. That's again city or county, so forth. Also eligible are institutions of higher education and tribes. So many of you who know us are aware that we normally require either high unemployment or low per capita income at the site of the project for the project to be eligible. However, as the entire country is currently under an emergency declaration due to the pandemic, every community across the country now meets our economic distress criteria through special need. I think this is the first time that's ever happened. So applicants do not need to demonstrate additional economic distress to be eligible. Next slide. So, examples of our projects. EDA's Economic Adjustment Assistance Program is our most flexible program. EAA projects are designed to help communities catalyze public-private partnerships to foster collaboration, attract investment, create jobs, and foster economic resiliency and prosperity. So how do we do that? So some of the projects that we have, and there's a lot of opportunity here. So we can capitalize or recapitalize revolving loan funds to improve access for small businesses, access to capital. We can fund recovery strategies that address the economic dislocation that we're experiencing. We can support entrepreneurial support projects, and of course, critical infrastructure that supports business growth. So this can be municipal broadband, water and sewer extensions, road widening, and so forth. All projects must address an impact of the pandemic on your economy and lead to recovery and resilience. Next slide. So some of the requirements. There is a match requirement. CARES Act funding allows us to start at an 80% grant rate, and how you calculate that may not be as obvious as you think. So it's the grant plus the match equal total project cost. So it's 20% of the total project cost, not 20% of the match. I mean, of the grant. So keep that in mind. And all match must be documented in a letter, but if you have match from 3 different sources, we need 1 letter from each. It must be committed, available, and for the same purposes as the grant request. So if you want to build a building, the match has to support the building of the building and not something else. Now, tribes and jurisdictions that have exceeded their taxing and borrowing capacity are eligible for a 100% grant rate. And jurisdictions that are requesting that 100% match must document that need. They must prove to us that they have exceeded their taxing and borrowing capacity. So that would be a conversation that you should have with us. Go ahead, next slide, please. Okay, another requirement for all projects funded under the EAA program is that it must be supported by a comprehensive economic development strategy, or a CEDS in our language. And a number of you have CEDS already. It's one of the things that we work on a regular basis is to get all jurisdictions, counties, multiple counties, to have a CEDS and to keep it up to date. If you don't think your community has a CEDS or a CEDS equivalent, you can contact Will and I, and we can determine if there's already one in existence, or we can work with you to see if you have an alternative plan if it meets our requirements. You can also go to our website, eda.gov, and there's a page there that talks about our CEDS guidelines, and the item on the right there shows you a little bit of what that is, if you can see it. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, according to the NOFO that just came out, all CARES Act projects must address our recovery and resilience investment priority. So in your narrative, you must talk about the impact of the pandemic on your economy and how this project is going to help you recover and become more economically resilient. So it must do that. Now you can address our other priorities, and for a more competitive application, I would strongly suggest that you do so. And for a complete description of all those priorities, you can go to our website. But those include critical infrastructure, workforce development, manufacturing, manufacturing supply chains, exports and foreign direct investment, and opportunity zones. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how do you apply? If you're familiar at all with federal grants, then you are familiar with grants.gov and all the joy that it brings us. When you go to grants.gov, you'll need to search for PWEAA 2020. That is the opportunity that was amended. And here you see a screenshot of that opportunity. So it's important to note a few things. There are no deadlines, except that all of our money has to be awarded by the end of September 2022. So that gives us a little over 2 years to get all this money out. And honestly, I don't think it's going to take us that long. So it's best not to dilly-dally. But we will be accepting applications on a rolling basis. So when your application is ready, then you should submit. Now, on this screenshot, if you can see the 4 tabs there, about a third of the way down, the one that says related documents, that is where the NOFO is located. And it's very important to read that. The CARES Act amendment are the last 5 pages of the NOFO, so read all the way to the end. It's very important. And here in this screenshot, you can see the packages. So there are different requirements for construction applications or non-construction applications. So you'll need to choose the appropriate one. I would not choose the one that's construction and non-construction. Don't choose that one. But if it's a construction, you'll want to choose the one on the top, and if it's a non-construction application, the one on the bottom. There is another category there, design and engineering. If you think that's appropriate for you, we'll just need to have a conversation. Call either Will or I, and we can talk to you about that one. But it's a little too deep to go into that one now. So, important things to remember before you hit the apply button. What you should do is go to the related documents, read the NOFO. You can choose the preview button here on the right to look at all of the forms. At the back of all the forms are the instructions. Those are another thing that you probably want to read before you start really filling out the application. It's important to do the applications in grants.gov because of the workspace feature that it has, and that multiple people from the same agency, the same applicant, can work on it together. And then you do need to have the head of that agency or nonprofit, whatever it is, be the one that hits the submit button so that we get all the correct electronic signatures. Little details can be very important. You can go to the next slide, please. So here's some very important resources. I know this has been really fast, but on the funding opportunities there, you can see the PWEA 2020, that's how you get to it at grants.gov, or you can search in grants.gov. EDA resources are available on that coronavirus page on eda.gov. And also, if you want to go to eda.gov/grants, you will find a list of all of our grants that we have awarded. It's by week and it goes back for years, but it'll give you a good idea of the type of things that we can fund. It's educational, so I think it's worth the visit. Also, again, here I have my contact information and Will's contact information. I've also included Francis Sakaguchi's contact information. If you are working on a project that has other federal funding involved, or it just seems really complex, we can bring Francis in to help us kind of navigate through that quagmire of all the federal funding that's out there. So she can be very useful. So that's kind of it quickly. We're here to help you, and I think we have some final questions.
Thank you so much, Melinda. We really appreciate you and your team for taking precious time to join us today. Yes, before we're wrapping up, we do have two final questions to our previous speakers. Number one, what is the best and preferred method of contact for your agency or your program?
So that one is pretty simple, especially since we're all working remotely right now. And it's, our phones are ringing off the hook. But the best way to contact all of us is by email. And you can also find our email addresses on our website. So they're on this presentation and they're on our website, but email's the best.
Thank you so much. Email will do. Second question, what is the one thing everyone should know when applying to your program?
So the important thing to think about when you're putting your projects together and you're putting, working on your application. So these are funds to help you recover and become more resilient. So it needs to be focused on your economy, and it needs to be focused on long-term recovery and resilience. Feel free to reach out to us and ask us, do you think this project's a good idea, or what could I do with this project? Because we can help you focus them or guide you away from something that's going to be problematic. And with all federal grants, these funds are supposed to be supplemental to your normal operations, not supplant your normal operations, or if you've had budget cuts, replace that money. This is supposed to be special targeted money for it to help you address the needs and the gaps that you are currently experiencing due to the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Melinda. Thank you very much for the great sharing and all these great recommendations. Once again, for those watching, if you have any more questions, please feel free to submit those questions to us. We're also looking forward to hear your feedbacks. This video will be posted both on our YouTube channel and our COVID-19 page on business.ca.gov. Thank you, everyone.